Hi guys, how you doing? I just came back from Birmingham, just went there for the weekend, went on some trains and around, which was really awesome. You know, I've been thinking, and I was thinking about this last night. I looked on Google and I looked for Filipino restaurants in Birmingham. And you know how many I found? One. One Filipino restaurant in the whole of Birmingham. And of course, because of COVID-19, understandably, that's diversified and is no longer a sit-down restaurant. And good luck to them. I hope the business improves. But the issue is, there's probably thousands of Filipinos in Birmingham. Maybe nurses, hotel workers, whatever it may be. And yet, I didn't find any Filipino restaurants. And when I found a restaurant that was owned by a Filipino, you know, sadly, I didn't see hundreds of Filipinos in there. I know there's the pandemic and everything, but my point is this. I really do think that, for me, I'm not Filipino myself, but for me, I think it's really important to promote Filipino food, to eat Filipino food as much as possible, and promote Filipino culture. And it kind of saddens me that in a big city like Birmingham, there just aren't any Filipino restaurants. Apparently the popular restaurants with Filipinos are maybe Chinese, Japanese, Thai, Italian, all different cultures. And I just think it's a shame that people are not patronising their own food. I just think that's a real shame. And again, I've gone to other parts of the UK, and I've gone to Liverpool. And other than Jollibee, which is not a Filipino restaurant, of course it is, it serves burgers, but I mean like fine dining, there wasn't one Filipino restaurant in Liverpool. A lot of the Filipino restaurants have shut down around the country. The only place that you can find Filipino restaurants are in London. And that's the same with other cities and other countries. And I just think it's a real shame, you know. I just think that, you know, there's an opportunity there because there's a lot of people like myself, like foreigners, who would be desperate to eat Filipino food. I spent hours searching on Google when I was in Birmingham to find a Filipino restaurant, and I just couldn't find one. And I think that's a crying shame. You know, Filipino food is incredible. It's fantastic. Adobo, ginataan, there's so many different varieties, so many different regions and cultures, and I just think that Filipino food needs to be put on the map. You know, I know this is happening with Romulo Cafe in Kensington. They're doing a fantastic job, and there's Kamaya, and there's Lutong Pinoy, and there are restaurants in London. There's quite a few. There's also some pop-up restaurants, but it's just a shame there isn't more being done. Maybe a directory of Filipino food. Don't tell me there's not a pop-up Filipino restaurant in Birmingham or Manchester or Liverpool. And if so, why is this not on Google? Why isn't Filipino food being celebrated? It's so fantastic, it's so diverse, but it just seems to be that many people would prefer to eat food from other countries rather than to eat food from their own country. And I do find that's an absolute shame. The only way we can put Filipino food on the map and encourage people to start eating Filipino food, i.e. foreigners, is if more Filipinos themselves start going to Filipino restaurants, start searching for Filipino food. And you know, this has always been a bit of an issue to me because I think it's the almost sworn duty of all Filipinos to promote their own culture. You know, you go along any high street in Britain and you'll see food from every single other culture in the world. And sadly, there's a distinct lack of Filipino restaurants. And I just think it's a shame that Filipino chefs are forced to cook other food or to serve other food because they know that other food, be it Japanese, be it Chinese, is probably going to sell more and be more popular. And that's a real shame. So guys, this is just a message just to say to all the people who are considering setting up restaurants, you know, you need to. set up Filipino restaurants. But then again, when I look at restaurants that are dedicated towards the Philippines, they're really not that busy, pandemic or no pandemic, and that's a real shame. I think we should really be promoting Philippine culture, Philippine restaurants, Philippine products. I think it's the responsibility of Filipinos to do this, to promote their own culture. The only way that things can become more cost effective, the only way that flights to the Philippines can come down, is by a massive campaign by Filipinos to buy Filipino, eat Filipino. You know, this has to be done. This is the way forward, and I do think it's a shame. I think we really need to wake up almost and kind of promote our culture. It just makes me really frustrated that here I am as a foreigner, I'm waving the Philippine flag, I'm talking about the Philippines 24/7, I'm wearing a Filipino jacket, I will only eat Filipino food. And yet there are some Filipinos who won't even bother to eat their own food. If you're going out to a restaurant, why go out to a Japanese restaurant or a Chinese restaurant? You should be finding a Filipino restaurant and eating your own food, your own culture, celebrating your own culture. This is the only way to make your culture more popular. And it's one thing that really, really frustrates me. I've got to be honest, I was really angry, because I was looking on Birmingham everywhere for a Filipino restaurant, because I was desperate to eat Filipino food in another city. And could I find one? No. It's such a shame. Please, please, please promote your own culture, eat your own food. You know, the only way that foreigners can be introduced to Filipino cuisine is if business owners set up Filipino restaurants and promote Filipino food. Thanks, guys.